Hey, everybody, and welcome to this episode of Beyond Day One. I'm David, and we're so glad that you're joining us as we continue our discussion about expectations for Gen Z. We've had 2 weeks now where we've talked about what they should expect, and we've even talked about some of the expectation gaps. But now we want to talk about what Gen Z should not expect from the workplace, or at least not immediately. In order to do so, I brought a few friends along with me to help me have this conversation. I've got Philip with me, I've got Ryan with me, and of course, for the second episode in a row, our Gen Z intern, John. John, how you doing today?
I'm doing all right. I figured you guys are nice enough last week that I'd have to come back this week.
Well,
Yes.
I think you're going to enjoy some of John's feedback on this particular episode. So, as we begin this conversation, we want to talk about what Gen Z should not expect, or at least not immediately, in the workplace. Now, one of the things that we talked about is we've talked about the difference between expectations versus demands. Sometimes Gen Z will come into a workplace and they'll have their own, just expected way that things are going to be. And when things don't go that way, then they check out of the workspace, they move on to other jobs. So, one of the things that we got to talk about a little bit later on is how important communication is and laying the groundwork in a good way for expectations. But there are some things that Gen Z comes to the workplace expecting that I think every employer and even you, Gen Z, should know about and should change your thinking about. The first one is the concept of instant promotion or leadership roles without experience. You know, this is a big deal because a lot of times Gen Z or other people will come into the workspace, they'll check things out and say, hey, I can do this better. Or I think I should be in that role too. I'm just as smart as whoever. And so expectation begins to grow in you that you too should be given a leadership role, or you too should be promoted or put in a place where, quite frankly, you have no experience with. In order for you to move up in an organization, you want to begin the practice of acquiring experience. That means you're going to be taking on projects at the job where you're learning about things, you're learning how things work, you're learning about the culture of the organization, you're learning how the pieces fit together. You're learning this new task, which takes you to the next task, which takes you to the next, and ultimately ends in a skill. It's almost like playing Mario Kart or playing a video game. You never go into a video game and start that video game expecting to be at boss level. You know that you have to start at the smallest portion of the game and you begin to build your character. And then you acquire this particular element, you acquire that particular element. And these elements help you to build to ultimately become the person who's ready to face your first boss level. When you're victorious there, there's promotion and you move to the next stage of the game. You should see your work environment in the same way: acquisition of skills and tools, meet the boss, move to the next level. But it should never be, I want to start at the boss level and then go where from there. That's your first one. Brian, what about this second one of completely customized jobs around personal preferences?
Yeah, to your point, David, gaining those skills and getting that experience is so vital to go to the next level or continue to move on, not just in your career, but your own life. It translates to both. But if you're not careful, you're gonna, if you try to tailor and expect a completely customized job description to all of your personal preferences, so you're never uncomfortable. Well, one, it's such an unrealistic expectation for starters, but you're going to work your way out of being able to progress forward and to be a value and an asset to your organization. It's called a job for a reason. there's uncomfortable and unfun things about it. You know what I mean? But
Mhm.
if you go into a job expecting this fully customized, chill thing that you're going to get, sorry for the lingo, but if that's what you come in expecting that and never expecting, for lack of a better metaphor, to sweat or to build muscle in your job, then you're not going to progress forward. So I think it's very important to, um, have some give and take. Like the job description shouldn't be all one-sided one way or the other, but having a good middle ground that you're comfortable with, but causes some uncomfortability so that you grow a little bit. I think is pretty important in any job description.
Mm. John, what were you started to share something a little earlier. What were you going to say about the job description?
Uh, quite frankly, as a piece of advice for anybody who's in Gen Z, read the job description and don't just skim over it and try to find the things that you really like about it. Like actually read the job description for what it is, and if you don't understand something, either ask your interviewer, ask your employer, or just Google if whatever words you don't understand. But I think that so much could be set on the table right between the employer and a Gen Z employee if you just understand what people are asking you to do. That's not all one-sided, of course. As an employer, I want to make sure, like, please be as transparent as possible about what you expect from your employee, but we can get into that in a second. But that's really it. Just be thorough in understanding what's being asked of you. That way, stepping in, on day one, you can have an open mind, and you can have your expectations kind of set aside for what, and be so that you can be prepared for what's being put in front of you. That's really it.
Yeah, that's good, John. One of the things in the Beyond Day One course that's built into the course is how to look at resumes and how to understand what your role and responsibility is. We can eliminate a lot of drama just by people understanding what it is their resume said and what you're being asked to do. Now, John, we'll stick with you here. What about those Gen Z who want fully remote flexibility in their role? They just want to have it roll their way.
I hate to break it to you, but that's probably not going to happen, at least not immediately. Um, sure, there is some work that allows you to work from home, allows you to do what you want to do comfortably at your own place, but which is standard for some jobs. But most jobs, kind of like tailing off of what Ryan said, like you're gonna have to get up and do some work that you just don't want to do. And just coming from personal experience, like the quicker you get over that mental hurdle of having to get up and talk to people and getting up and going to the office and getting dressed and driving out, like it's that's kind of a reality that you have to face, and it's not something that most jobs are not just going to fall in your lap where you can just work from home. So it's kind of, I know there's a term here that I'm missing, but the idea is like I don't want to pop your bubble, that's what it is. But I know it sounds silly saying that, for most people, like that's kind of obvious stuff, but I feel like for Gen Z, it's so like such a bizarre concept to have to go somewhere to work, just because we're so familiar with different sources of income, like right here at my own desk, at my own computer, and some things I can even do off of my own phone and it like lay in bed and work technically. So it's the other side of that coin I want to add is that like it's not just something that we want to just people want to just get you to go out and work in an office. Like there's a potency in like working with your coworkers, because you can hop on a Zoom meeting or Google Chat or whatever people use nowadays to work online, but there's kind of like this um,
Synergy.
platonic, right, like this platonic chemistry that happens at work, and once you actually get to know the people that you're working with, there's just so much more that can be done. And I hate to put like keep on going off on this concept, but I will finish with this. There was a study where they've shown that a lot of workplaces that have hybrid like the workforce is kind of split between working in the office for half the week and then working at home half the week, or every other day they switch out. They get more work done, like more work than just an office that stays at the office at all week, or a workforce that stays at home all week. Like there's this kind of like this weird mixture of working at home and office that kind of produces more from people. So you get to see who you want to see and hang out with, on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, but then you actually focus and hunker down on Tuesday and Thursday, So there are benefits to both sides, but you can't apply to a job expecting me to just be in the comfort of my own home as soon as I start working at whatever workplace.
Yeah, unless you've specifically applied to a remote job and gotten hired for that, you should not expect it. Finally, Philip, what about recognition before results?
This is one of those things that at first might seem to be a little tough to deal with, to be honest with you. The idea of recognition before results not being a thing for most workplaces. What we have to realize is that it's more important for you to enjoy, honestly, and it sounds cliche, but enjoy the journey. When you first come into a workplace and you're learning the ropes and you're getting your job description down and you're figuring out your daily tasks and all those things like that, it's very important to let your work do the talking for you. And as you're coming along and progressing in what you do, learn to enjoy the journey of developing that track record with your employer so that they can see what you've done. And after a while, it's almost like expecting recognition before results is almost like expecting wet sidewalks to cause rain. It's a little bit of a backwards situation there. And on the thought of enjoying the journey or getting comfortable with the job enough before you even start really being concerned about getting recognized or whatever the case is, I ran across a quote the other day that I thought was really good, and it says, "The man who loves walking will walk further than the man who loves the destination." I was like, that's really cool. And that's what really the basic concept behind it is: learn to enjoy the process that you're actually doing day in and day out and involved in that process. And as you get your focus on that, after a while, you won't even be, there won't even be a need to strive to get someone's attention who's in a higher position or whatever. They'll come searching for you. It's just one of those kinds of things. So definitely make a habit of enjoying the process and learning as much as you can right where you are.
Yeah, that's great, Philip. As we wrap up this episode, here are a few things to think about and how to bridge the gap. If you're Gen Z, the first thing I want to ask you to do is be coachable, ask good questions, and show initiative before expecting a reward. Okay. Now, if you're a leader, one of the things that's important for you is to clarify your expectations early. Don't let things linger and then get to it later on. You've got to talk to this generation early about what you're expecting and clarifying, and then explain the why and connect work with purpose. We've talked about this before, but work with purpose is dynamic. Work without purpose is drudgery. And this generation doesn't want to do drudgery. They want purpose. And finally, for both of you, replace assumptions with conversations. You've got to have real conversations so there are no misunderstandings, so there's no lack of clarity, so there's no, I'm not sure, what is this supposed to be? Make sure you guys have meaningful conversations that help to clear the air and make sure everybody is on the same page. Man, we hope this helps, and we hope that you change your expectations for the good and get great results from it. I'm David. He's Philip. That's John. He's Ryan. And we are out.